Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the REDX podcast. Thanks for joining us today, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or on our REDX webpage. We're grateful that you're here with us for the next 45 minutes or an hour. I'm really excited about the guests we have on the show today, AJ Mida. We're grateful for the time that he's taken out of his very busy, both professional and personal life right now to spend a few minutes with us, teach us about how we can prospect more efficiently to our sphere of influence. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Again, if you're watching, regardless of the channel that you're watching on, make sure if you have questions for AJ, he'll answer those as you chat those in. So make sure you get those over, and I'll relay those over to AJ, and he will share his expertise with us. AJ, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's as we got a chance to talk, I always try to spend a few minutes with people pre-show, and this is going to be a good one. I'm really excited. So what I'd love to do, though, is start out so that people who don't know who you are can get a chance to know you. Can you just tell us, similar to the way you introduced yourself pre-show, give us a little bit of history of your real estate experience and how you got to where you are right now, which is an impressive place. So if you'd share that with us, that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. So I got my real estate license all the way back in 2012, actually at the end of 2012. And I initially got into real estate because, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was in high school. And if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. But it talks about this idea of freedom and creating residual income, building a business so that you can actually have time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom. So I thought that becoming a real estate agent and eventually building a real estate team would be the path to that success. And it definitely got me on the way in that direction. So got my real estate license. First year, 2013, was not very successful. I was rookie of the year at my office, but I only sold 6 houses. But what I discovered that first year was the path to success. I hired a coach. I went to my first conference, and I put that first coach, I went to that first conference all on a credit card. I started with really no money, and my wife and I, we had just moved to North Carolina, so we knew nobody. So it's cool that I'm on this podcast today talking about, sphere and past client marketing. When I got into real estate, I had no sphere, and I obviously had no past clients. So hopefully some of the listeners can learn from that maybe. So, but what I discovered was expired listings for sale by owners, and that's how I came to know about REDX, and discovered a proven blueprint to success through seller prospecting. And by the end of my first year, I was able to actually have 20 active listings on the market, which propelled me into my second year of real estate, selling 36 homes myself and making well over $150,000. And that was all based on seller prospecting. So it was really expired for sale by owners that got me into production, got me to become a successful agent. Then by my third year, we're doing about half of our business from our sphere and past client referrals. So very quickly, we were able to kind of pivot a little bit and get most of our business coming from referrals and past clients, which a lot of that success that we had with that is what we're going to talk about today.
That's awesome. Thank you. And that's hugely impressive, right? To increase from year 1 to year 2, what is that? 500%, yeah. Right? To go from 6 to 36 listings is massive, right? I'm super excited as we talk, because then to go from, for the majority, I'm going to guess the majority of that second year came from those seller listings, like you said, but then to all of a sudden make this pivot where half of your business is coming from sphere of influence is like, that's amazing. So what is it that you do now, right? Because you're not actively selling real estate at this point. So let's talk about that for just a little bit, because that's important.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first got into real estate, I joined Keller Williams, great company, loved my time there. I was heavily involved in all their classes, like Bold. I was on ALC for 2 years, was a coach for them for a year, activity coach. And I developed a passion of teaching and training others while at that company. So through that, I just developed a deep passion. And even prior to real estate, I always wanted to coach. And just, the thing that's most rewarding to me is when I'm talking to somebody and the light bulb just turns on, where they see their future a little bit differently than they saw before speaking with me. And that's just always got me really excited. So even while I was, very heavy into production, it was like, how can I eventually retire from selling houses so I can just help change real estate agents' lives? And that's what I do now. So about 3.5 years ago, I switched from Keller Williams to eXp Realty, started to build a nationwide team inside of that company, and along with coaching and training agents. I have different courses, things like that, but primarily it's coaching and training the agents who are partnered with me, and now have over 1,900 agents all across the US, Canada, now a couple, about 50 in the United Kingdom, and a few in Australia. So it's growing massively, and it's just fun for me to be able to talk to agents, whether they're at eXp or not. I'm still coaching agents outside of eXp, just being able to help them achieve their dreams, because real estate's such an amazing vehicle, and you can build such an amazing business through expired prospecting, for sale by owners, through a sphere business, open houses. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But if you don't have the right mentorship in this business, you can quickly find yourself being run over by your own business, like missing, dinners with your family, missing sporting events with your kids on the weekends, working 60 hours a week. I mean, real estate agents, the public likes to look at us and say, wow, they're so overpaid. It's so easy because they watch HGTV. But the reality is that most agents are overworked and underpaid. I mean, the average agent in America only makes like 40 grand a year. And I know agents, and they work really hard, and they usually work forever. They never truly retire. So I just love helping agents set up their business and run their business like a business, so their business serves them. They're not always serving it, and they can eventually have that financial freedom that they might be looking for, that time freedom, that location freedom, or whatever their goals are. So that's just my passion.
Well, and that's amazing. And the truth is, I think a lot of people get into real estate, and you can probably confirm this, and they want to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. When in reality, there are proven paths to be tremendously successful in real estate, right? But I think you hit the nail on the head, right? You said mentorship is a big thing. That's important. Mm-hmm. And finding the right people to teach you, and for lack of a better way to say it, hold your hand as you start off, and maybe even deeply into, long into your career, you've got somebody that you're going back to saying, hey, how do I do this? How do I get better? How do I hold myself more accountable is super important. So that's awesome. I want to talk about sphere of influence, right? As we've done, I think we're somewhere around 60 episodes of this show, and we started the show initially because everything changed rapidly with COVID, right? And so we said, well, let's talk to people out there that are still doing amazing and find out what they're doing. But now that actually COVID-19 is kind of our norm right now, we're going, okay, well, let's just talk about the stuff that helps us. We want to get better at what we do. And sphere of influence is the goal, right? I mean, we all want to get to the point in real estate business where we have enough sphere of influence. We have a large enough database that referrals just walk in the door. We can take the cream of the crop listings and work with who we want and do the listings we want. So let's talk about that, because this is your bread and butter, right? This is what you do, is teaching agents to be successful here. So let's dive into that and talk about why sphere of influence is such a, in fact, let me ask this question. Why is sphere of influence so overlooked by many agents? Let me ask that question.
Yeah, I think there's a couple reasons. And I just want to say too, if you're watching this and you don't have a sphere or past clients because you're new to the business, just like me, this is still going to help you, because you can use this strategy for expired prospecting, for sale by owners as well, as part of your follow-up sequence. So this will be highly valuable to those of you watching as well. But I think people overlook it for a couple of reasons. Maybe they don't have it, so they're thinking, well, once I have 50 past clients, 100 past clients, once I have 100 people or 200 people in my sphere database, then I'll start marketing to them. So they always wait until they have this big database that they can market to. And it can be a struggle getting there if you don't start marketing to those people when it's a small group. And then the other part of it is, I think they're afraid. I think, just my friends in the business and coaching a lot of agents, is a lot of people would rather just cold call a stranger, talk to a stranger at Starbucks, talk to them about real estate, than actually calling their friend and saying, hey, I don't know if you remember, but I'm in real estate, or hey, I just got into real estate, or hey, I helped you buy a house last year. Do you know anyone else looking to buy or sell? So I think most of it, quite frankly, is just that they're afraid to. And I get it. And so was I, until I developed and learned this system. Like you said, don't reinvent the wheel. So most of the stuff that I teach now is just stuff, all the best things that I learned from all my coaches, you know, and kind of put my own twist on it and made it better. And I think that's what the entire coaching industry is. You know, it's everybody else standing on the shoulders of giants. So I think the first step to the key to this whole puzzle is truly helping agents get over that fear of reaching out to their sphere, that fear of reaching out to their past clients. So how do you do that? So when you look at like the overall philosophy of sphere marketing, past client marketing, is I like to think of it as my VIP program. And it has a few key elements that makes it very easy to stay in contact because you're always adding value. You know, I've been in different courses and classes where they teach you just to call up your past clients and say, hey, it's AJ, I'm just calling you because I wanted to let you know that I'm in real estate, you know, a little bit of small talk, and then you just end it with, who do you know looking to buy or sell? I'm sure that's highly effective, but it feels like you're just taking and you're not adding value. So a lot of agents get stuck and never make the calls. But when you can kind of flip the script and always add value when you're reaching out to these people, it makes it a lot easier and it makes it fun. So it's all built around adding value. So how can you do that? And what I'm going to teach today, I don't care if you have 10 people or 1,000 people, you can still do this. So it's built on 2 client giveaways and 2 client appreciation parties. I like to call them VIP parties because if you don't have a lot of clients, you can't really have a client appreciation party, right? But you can have a VIP party. So that kind of takes away that limiting belief of why you can't be doing this. So the giveaways, you know, it's really simple. And when I first got into real estate, I thought it was kind of cheesy, quite frankly, but your clients love it and it's a lot of fun. So giving away Thanksgiving Day pies at Thanksgiving, Valentine's chocolates in the winter. So you kind of spread those out really nicely. And then you have a spring client appreciation party and a fall client appreciation party. So what you're able to do is you're able to take all your marketing, all your calls, all your text messages, and kind of surround those events with it. So for example, let me pull up my schedule here, and this can get a little complicated if you don't break it down in a Google spreadsheet. So you want to actually have this pre-planned for the entire year. So you're going to send postcards, you're going to text your clients, you're going to call your clients, and you're going to do emails, preferably video emails. So let's just start with the events though. What's cool about the events is that even if they can't make it, or even if they don't want to pick up a pie or have you deliver a pie, because you can do both, you still get credit just for asking them. So the postcards, you're going to have 12 postcards that go out once a month. And you want to set this up at the beginning of the year so it's just on autopilot. Because as real estate agents, we get super busy. So if it was ever up to me to get these out on a regular basis, I would have no marketing plan. And for about 2 years, I did have no marketing plan because I was just too busy selling real estate. So you want to have it set up. You want to have this all as much on autopilot as possible. So 12 monthly postcards, then an extra postcard around each of your 4 events. So a total of 16 postcards. So that's 16 touches right there. And you call. So say it's the spring party coming up, say it's in May, you call ahead of time and you just follow up the postcard that just went out. Hey, it's AJ. Not sure if you saw the postcard. We sent it out last week, but we're having a client appreciation party. I did one at a local zoo before. It was really awesome. We had to play with monkeys and do all this cool stuff, and we just had a blast. So I'm not sure if you saw the postcard. Did you get it? Okay, great. You did get it. Awesome. Do you think you'll be able to make it? Okay, great. You can. How many are coming? Awesome. Got you down. How's everything else going? Okay, great to hear. Just want to let you know my business is built on referrals. If you ever know of anybody looking to buy or sell, please let me know. So you're still reminding them, hey, like keep me in mind for other people, but you're reaching out, adding value. So that's 16 touches with the postcards. And then phone calls. I like to do a quarterly phone call, just touching base. Hey, how's it going? Anything I can do to help? And you can help by just reminding them, hey, if you need, a contractor to renovate your kitchen, if you need a yard guy, like agents have so many different contacts that are valuable to homeowners. So just remind them, hey, if you need any help with anything, give them some examples of what you can help with, plumber, whatever, just let me know. And then you end it with, hey, if you know anyone looking to buy or sell, let me know. So those are quarterly calls. And then you have your 4 calls inviting them to the pies or the appreciation parties. So there's a total of 8 calls. And then you got your emails going out every 2 weeks. You line them up to where you're adding either value or inviting them to a party or to a giveaway. And then text. So then you just sprinkle in text messages in between the phone calls, and you have this touch program that can be anywhere from say 50 touches to 60 touches a year. And I mean, that's like lights out. And when you're doing it in a way that doesn't feel like invasive to your clients, or doesn't feel like you're always taking, like, I know some people right now are thinking, wow, that's a lot of touches. I could never do that much. I'd be bothering them. But you're really not, because you're just adding value and you're keeping them up to date on things. Like your emails going out are market updates. They're spring cleaning tips. And you just got to remember, like, every single year, we're living in a society that gets busier and busier and busier, and we're getting hit by different social media channels, different news channels, kids, work, all these different things. They probably see like a quarter of the stuff you put out. Everything else gets lost. That's why you need to be so aggressive, I guess you could say, with this type of marketing. So that's the Sphere program. Do you got any questions you want me to clear up, or do you want me to keep going?
No. I do have some questions. There's and that was fantastic, right? To break it down for us in such a simple way, to go, here's when I send these, and here's the content of these. A couple of questions. What are the 12 postcards that are going out once a month? What's the content of those? Because they're not tied to an event or one of the holidays. What's the content of those?
Yeah, great question. And to you guys, I was going to share this at the end, but if you guys go to sellerprospecting.com, I have a free mini course on prospecting. And if you just reply to the thank you message that will go out, I'll send you some more resources about what we're talking about. And one of the recommendations is a marketing company that sets the postcards up. So he does postcards. It's the 320 group. He does postcards for a lot of the biggest teams in the country. So he has them all set up already for you. He switches them out to have your branding, your information, and it's just so simple. And it's really super cheap. It's like $25 a postcard for the redesign. I mean, that's $300 for a complete postcard campaign that you can reuse every single year. So it's relatively inexpensive, but it's like, it's like, let's say it's January. It's like, hey, Happy New Year. Hope you're having a great start to your year. If it's February, well, that's Valentine's Day. You can do spring cleaning tips. It's, first day of summer. It's Happy 4th of July. It's, Happy Holidays. It's Happy Thanksgiving. So there's just so many different things like that happen throughout the year. So it's just really simple. It's not overthinking it. It's not trying to figure out, oh man, I need to figure out a whole newsletter that I'm going to send out that shows all the latest listings every single month. That would be great, but for most agents who don't have the support staff for it, it's really hard to implement and get it out consistently. So you just want to keep it simple. They're just going to see your branding. You just want them to, if they think real estate, they think you. And that's why you just over and over, you just put your face and your name in front of them. So you keep the postcards really simple.
I love that. And I love the idea of setting it up the year in advance. Because like you said, if you've got to do that 12 times a year or 16 times a year or more, right? It's just too much. It's too many. It's too much to sit down and create all the postcards. So I love that there's resources out there that are available. There's a couple of questions. There's two related to postcards, and then I'm going to go back up the list. But Jamal has a couple of questions. Jamal, thanks for being with us on the show again. He asks, number one, what size postcards do you use? And then number two, he says, is it too much to send those 12 postcards plus send just listed, just sold cards? He says, I don't want to overload somebody. So if somebody already has postcard campaigns set up for their recent listings and transactions, is that too much, do you think, in addition to the 12? Or could you replace one with the other? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Great question. If you are sending just listed, just sold type postcards to your sphere and past clients, and that's kind of like the thing you do, maybe it's, a beautiful postcard you're sending out and it has all of that already. I think that's a great thing to do instead of this, or maybe you send those out once a quarter, because maybe I love the idea of incorporating that just because it's social proof. It's, hey, I listed all these homes, I sold all these homes, and it's just social proof that you're successful and that you're very active. So I love the idea of incorporating that. And if you want to do 2 postcards a month, I don't think it's going to overwhelm. I just don't know if the return on investment will make sense to have that added expense. I think once a month for postcards is enough when you're also hitting them with everything else.
And what size postcards? I mean, are we talking a
Yeah.
4x6 or a nice big old full 10-inch glossy?
Yeah, it's big. I think it's 6x10.
Okay.
I think 6x10. So it's pretty big. They're gonna notice it in their mailbox.
Well, and that's what we want, right?
Yeah,
we want them.
exactly.
We want to send something. If we're going to invest in sending something like that, we want them to see it.
Exactly.
And that's fantastic. Thank you. Now, there's another question here, and it goes back to sending text messages, right? Because you said you're sending text messages, emails, and phone calls often around these events throughout the year. What do you say in a text message to add value, right? Because it's got to be somewhat short and sweet. But what do you do there, or is it? Or are the text messages, do they enforce the other parts of the conversation? Help me understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, great question. So it's a lot like I was saying of what you would say on the phone. So a lot of the texts will be enforcing what's happening, because you might call somebody, leave a message, and a lot of people just don't return messages. So you might be following up the next week with a text message, and you definitely want to use a great CRM system to track all this. I mean, you could be doing this all in the Storm dialer. So a lot of text, man, it's just, don't overthink it. It could be, hey, John, it's AJ. I was just thinking of you guys today. If you ever need anything, let me know. Like, you don't even need a response. It's just you're popping up on their phone that you're there for them. And what I mentioned too when we started this conversation was it's going to help you with your prospecting. Imagine just taking all the expireds, all the for sale by owners you can turn into nurtures. And I consider any prospect a nurture who, if they say no to me to an appointment on the phone, I wrap up the call with, hey, no problem. Just out of curiosity, when you go to list your house this fall, do you have an agent in mind, or would you be open to interviewing me? So you just want confirmation that they're not going to list with their brother-in-law, their son or daughter, their neighbor. If they're already obligated to somebody where there's a tight relationship, like, it's just not worth the effort to try to like wedge yourself in there and potentially ruin, that family relationship, because, there would be grudges there. I would have a grudge if my parents didn't use me, and I hear that happening, which is unfortunate. But yeah, you take those people if they're a nurture and that they will interview you in the future, and you put them on this campaign. So if you have no sphere, no past clients, and you just put your nurtures on a campaign like this, when they go to list in the fall, you will be the only agent following up at this type of level, and they're going to use you. It's just going to be easier to use you. You're going to show that you're professional because you did a nice job following up. And rather than just going to Google and trying to find an agent, they're just going to use you. And it's just like lights out. Like my goal as an agent was always to get 3 to 5 nurtures per day. So if I'm hitting 5 a day, that's 25 nurtures a week. That's 100 a month. In a year, that's 1,000 to 1,200 sellers who have said, yes, I will interview you when I go to sell my house. And if you've been doing what we're talking about with this V.I.P program, you are going to be listing homes consistently, and it's going to be easy. You're not going to be showing up for appointments and competing with 4 other people. You're going to be going there. They're only interviewing you, and you're going to be listing homes consistently 2 to 4 months after a year of implementing something like this. And the other objection, and this was me, I know the objections to this because this was me early on in my career, and I don't want people to make the same mistake, is I don't know anybody. I don't have any past clients yet. I can't do a client appreciation party. Well, what if you just called the 10 people that you do know in your area, maybe you just moved there, whatever, or you have 5 past clients, you call them, hey, I'm doing a VIP get together at XYZ restaurant this Friday. I'm only inviting a handful of people, and I'd really appreciate if you and your wife could make it. Well, now they show up and it's like 6 of you, and they feel honored because you invited them to this get together of a small select handful of people. So now you have a great time. You can build even a better relationship because you have more time to spend with just a couple of people versus 100 at a big client appreciation party, and they'll remember you forever for that. So just start small. One of my mentors, Brendan Burchard, he told me one time, he's like, most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of being seen starting small. And it's so true. It's like with social media or, if you're an agent and you're not doing video now, you're missing such a huge opportunity. And even when I started my YouTube channel, it was like, I felt like a complete idiot. Like you get 5 views, you're like, nobody's watching this, and it didn't work. I look like a moron on video. And it wasn't that I was afraid I was going to fail. Like if I failed, it's like, well, who cares? I failed. Like I'd be disappointed in myself, but what you're really afraid of is being embarrassed. You know, you're afraid that if you do a live video and there's 2 people watching and there's only 50 views total, and you see your friends and colleagues getting 1,000 views, you're like, oh, well, you know, this is embarrassing. I'm afraid of being seen starting small. And I just want to kind of take that home to your client appreciation parties. Love on the people that are currently in your network, and you'll reap the rewards later. And it's a lot more fun. You know, expireds for sale by owners, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for them. But it's a grind. And if you base your whole career, 10, 15 years on that, and that's your sole source of business, it's going to be a grind. Burnout's going to be high. And I love what you said when you opened up the call. It's like, you know, this COVID-19 thing, like how do we build a strong foundation? Seller prospecting is your strong foundation, married with the type of sphere marketing we're talking about. That's like the foundation to your business. You got to get good at seller prospecting, and you got to get good at loving on your people.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I think everybody gets into real estate, and nobody gets into real estate with like low expectations, right? We all get into real estate ready to just dominate. And the hope, I think, for every agent, and our hope for every agent is that they graduate to whatever the next level is. Like, and you're a really good example of that, AJ, to say, look, I started small and wasn't super successful in my first year, but I made some changes. I hired a coach. I practiced the things that they were teaching me, did 36 transactions your second year. And now you're at the point where you're not actively selling real estate. You're teaching almost 2,000 agents across the world, really, to graduate to the next level, to get to what's next, right? And I love that. I love what you said. It's okay to start small, just so long as we start somewhere. Exactly. Let me jump back. There's a couple of questions here that go back to the conversation that we've been having. Amanda Smith in Texas. Thanks, Amanda, for being with us again. She says, do you send postcards just to your database, or do you also send them to prospects like expireds and FSBOs? Now, you kind of answered this by saying, yeah, if you don't have a network, yeah. I mean, you could get 1,200 nurture leads a year, people who've committed to interviewing you. But are you putting them on a similar campaign where you're saying, hey, I'm going to reach out with 12 postcards a year just so that I maintain that top of mind? So you're saying that somebody could do that with expireds and FSBOs just like they would their sphere of influence.
Yep, exactly. You'll grow so much faster if you start doing that from day one. Like my first 2 years, I mean, all I did was call, and I called like 2 to 3 hours a day, and I did that 5 days a week, and I made a great living from it. But I never started to get that momentum from referrals. So the sooner you can transition them into this campaign that I'm talking about, the better. And it's really natural. It's funny, you know, a lot of times when you're calling expireds, a lot of times they're expired because, you know, it's a investor, or it's, you know, just a homeowner who happens to have one rental, and they're like, oh, well, we just got a new tenant in there. They really want to sell it, but because it didn't sell while it was vacant, it's, you know, rented again. And they'll tell you, hey, yeah, we do want to sell this property, but we got a new tenant in it. So next year, yeah, we'll look at selling it again. So I'd be like, all right, great. So when that tenant moves out, you'll be open to interviewing me for the job of selling the home? Yeah, okay, great. Well, that's a nurture now because I confirm they'll interview me. But it's like a year from now, and you want to call them like probably 3 months for sure before the lease is set to expire, minimum. But that's all I was doing. So I would catch them usually before they went to list it again, but they didn't remember me. They had no idea who I was. So yeah, I was probably getting my foot in the door before another agent, but they didn't remember me. Imagine if I had been either calling, texting them, or emailing them once a month, inviting them to client appreciation parties, inviting them to come pick up a Thanksgiving Day pie. They would at least know who I am. These types of people will usually turn you down for those types of things because a relationship's not there yet, but they'll get the postcard, they'll get the invite, and they might show up. So for example, if it's somebody that I haven't done business with yet, it's an expired, but they're a nurture, I can just call them and say, hey, you know, I know we haven't done business yet, but I'm having a VIP party coming up. It's a fall party. It's for the whole family. We have bounce houses. We have, you know, face painters. We have a whole barbecue catering going on. I'd really love for you to come. Do you think you can make it? They're gonna remember that, and whether or not they show up, it doesn't matter. You got credit for asking them, and when it's time for them to list the property, they're going to list with you 9 times out of 10. So yes, move them all over into this marketing campaign, this VIP program, as quick as possible.
Well, and it goes back to what you said at the beginning, right? Is we want to provide value. And so if you're providing value for these people prior to even helping them transact in real estate, their impression of how you're going to help them as a hired service provider, right, is probably all that much more, which is awesome.
Yeah. And they're going to remember their last experience with an agent and be thinking, they never invited me to a party. They never gave me a pie. And they're going to be thinking, if I do business with this person, I get all these ongoing benefits. And people are social. And a lot of times, maybe people don't have a lot of friends. They start to see your parties as like part of their social calendar, which is pretty cool.
So there's a question here that I want to get to, but while we're kind of talking about events still a little bit, I want to ask this question is, because you'd mentioned, hey, we did this at a zoo and we got to play with monkeys and things, and you're talking about barbecues with face painters and bounce houses, and for somebody who's never done a client appreciation event, that sounds intimidating. What's maybe an appropriate amount of money for somebody to invest in one of these client appreciation parties? That maybe is their first or second one. Obviously, when you get to the point where you've got a database of 1,200 people or 1,500 people, and the referrals are coming in, it becomes a lot easier to say, I know what my ROI is on this amount of money that I'm going to spend. But what can somebody expect to spend on one of maybe a smaller client appreciation event for their past clients?
So if you are at the level where it seems like it's going to be expensive, that probably means that you're doing enough business to where your vendors would be more than happy to contribute. So even if you're new and haven't done much business, if you tell a lender like what your plan is, or tell an inspector, hey, this is what I'm doing, I want to work with you on an ongoing basis. Would you support me and sponsor?
Uh-oh, did we lose him? Hang tight, folks. Looks like we're having technical difficulties.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we got you back.
I'm back. All right. Where'd I cut out at?
You were mentioning reaching out to like a lender or a home inspector. Perfect. and saying, look, we want to work together a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So when you use that strategy, it doesn't really cost you anything, or it costs you a little bit. These vendors actually have budgets to do these types of things. Like that's their marketing budget. You're their client, and the way they get more clients is by partnering with agents on these types of events. So, but let's just say you had no vendors. I mean, there's parks that have free reservations for, pavilions that you could use. You could have a local company cater it, and you actually go pick up the trays of pulled pork and you get your buns from Costco. I mean, you could do it for a couple $100s if it was all out of your pocket. But I would highly recommend getting your vendors involved. They may or may not want to show up. Doesn't matter either way. But when you send out the postcard for the event, their little logo can be on it. They just want to know that when the time comes, you're going to recommend them. And so it should honestly be, even for a big one, out of your pocket, it should be less than $1,000 with partners and everything.
So here's what you're saying, right? For anybody who's listening who might feel intimidated by the idea of doing one of these client appreciation events, what you're saying is, man, there's ways to do it. If it's small and you have to pay out of pocket, there's ways to do it for a very small amount of money. We're talking, like you said, a couple $100s maybe, if you've got to go get the pulled pork and go to Costco and that sort of thing. Yeah. But even these large ones, you're saying, with the partnerships that you're going to create, you're having those vendors pay for a lot of this as sponsors to the event, so to speak. Yep. And so it's a way to have your cake and eat it too. If there's no better way to say that, right? You can have these client appreciation events and have them paid for by the other real estate professionals that you're working with. That's fantastic, right? And I hope that people that are listening who do feel intimidated by the idea of doing these events, I hope that light bulb goes off for them and they go, oh man, there's no reason for me to not do these. I should be able to go out and the ROI should be fantastic on every single one of those events. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. So Jamal has another question. Thank you, Jamal. And this goes back, you'd mentioned, look, if you're not doing video emails nowadays and not doing things on social media, which I'm assuming means posting videos and that sort of thing. He says, what app or website do you use to edit your videos? And are you just using your phone? And this is a question that we've had, AJ, a bunch of times from people who I think the expectation is there needs to be a large video setup, a lot of technology to create a good video. Can you confirm or deny that for us?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, you have major companies like Fortune 500 companies that they're actually doing commercials where it's like that paid actors are like holding up their phone doing like selfies. We as consumers at this point, we trust the homemade videos more. We trust when we see a YouTube video of some guy or girl reviewing a product in their bedroom over this highly produced commercial. So it's actually better, the lower production quality, in my opinion. I mean, even think about like maybe colleagues or maybe you have them in the past where it's like they're highly produced and the agent's talking in a beautiful living room that's like a model home or something, and it's just really rehearsed versus like somebody just like walking down the street doing a selfie video, like speaking from the heart. Like we connect more to these selfie type videos. So what I would do, this is as fancy as I'd get. If you don't even need a camera, I mean, iPhones at this point, or I'm sure you have Droids too, but I'm an iPhone person. You can just use your cell phone. So if you want to get a camera, a great vlogging camera is the Canon M50. That's going to help. You know, the vlogging cameras are nice because they get a little more wide angle, but my wife just got the iPhone 11 and that has wide angle that's really good too. So just shoot selfie style or get a tripod with a ring light. So just go to Amazon, type in ring light, and use that. So you want good lighting. So if you're not outside, use a ring light in the home. Have a decent background, you know, yours is perfect. It's just a blank wall, or you can have the living room in the background, your office, whatever. But I think if you're just walking down the street in a park, in a neighborhood, and you're just selfieing yourself talking, especially when you're newer to video, it helps when you're moving around because you're breathing, fresh air, you're standing tall, you're walking. I know a lot of real estate agents like to walk and talk when they're on the phone with clients. It brings up your energy. And when you're on camera, if you think that you're being enthusiastic, you probably need to dial it up like 10 times, because when you look back at the video, you're like, oh my God, I was so monotone. I had no energy. Like I still have that problem. And it's like, man, I thought I was being enthusiastic and I wasn't. So if you want, just selfie it walking around, or have a ring light with a tripod, and then you can do it at your office, your home, whatever. And then if you want to edit it, the only thing you really need to edit, and most phones can do this now, or you can use iMovie on a Mac. It's a free program. Just cut out the beginning. If it's like, you pressing the button and you want to edit that out, just edit out the front, edit out the end. And if you screw up, this is the big thing too. Don't feel like you have to do like one shoot all the way through. You can do what's called jump cuts. Just go to YouTube and type in how to do a jump cut using iMovie. And it's like so simple, guys. I mean, it's so simple now with technology. It's unbelievable. And all you do is you cut out the mistakes. That's a jump cut. So if I'm doing a video, I might record for 20 minutes and I never stop. I never hit stop on the camera. I just keep going if I screw up. Or I think of what I'm going to say. I say 2 lines. I stop. I think about what I'm going to say. I do 2 lines. And then I just do jump cuts. And if you're on YouTube at all, like following anyone on YouTube, you'll see, and you probably already know what I'm talking about, like, oh, that's how they do it. They just go for 20 minutes, they make mistakes, they have what they're gonna say written down or whatever, and then they just jump cut. And it helps a lot too. It's very engaging because you're also cutting out like pauses and ums. And realistically, you could do that. You could record, do all your jump cuts in like less than an hour for a video. So you can keep it really simple. Just the biggest thing, guys, don't overthink it. Keep it simple. If it's confusing, if it's complex, you're less likely to do it. So always keep it simple.
I totally agree. I think that the more friction you have when trying to accomplish a task, it deters us from doing that. And your answer is really consistent with other people that we've interviewed on the show, right? Is it doesn't have to be high production, doesn't have to be rehearsed, doesn't have to be a one take. It's better to do anything than to not get anything out at all. And you've confirmed that for us.
People like seeing that we're human too. It's like, you'll see YouTubers, like big YouTubers, and we're talking about millions of subscribers, like they will leave in the final version, they leave in the mistakes because it's funny and it helps us relate because we see, oh wow, they make mistakes too, as opposed to, wow, I could never be like that, or they're too well polished, they're too above, where I'm at in my business, my career, or whatever the reason, you might be producing content for. But people relate to us just being, human. So use that to your advantage. Have fun with it.
Awesome. We've got another question from Amanda, and this is a fantastic one. So let me preface her question with this. You've talked about doing these client appreciation events and having people help sponsor those events. So Amanda's question goes a little bit further. She says, do you sponsor any events in your community or just focus on your own client events? And so do you feel like it's worth it to get out there to try to build your network and your database by sponsoring block parties or putting a bench on the golf course or things like that? Do you feel like that's as good, or for you, is it, hey, let's focus on where we already have the relationship and build and nurture that relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say it depends. It depends on your personality partly. Like me, I would rather just from 8 to 11 every day, just be on the phones with my headset, my scripts, and just call expired FSBOs versus going out and being social and being like the face on the banner at a charity event. That just wasn't me. If that's you, then yes, go do that. We definitely did sponsor some stuff. Like if someone in our database, our sphere, said, hey, could you sponsor this little event? Your logo will go on the t-shirts or whatever. It's $300. Like we would do that just to give back to them and give back to the community. And for sure, if you go out and do that, Amanda, like you can have massive success with it for sure. I would say it just depends on your database, or I'm sorry, on your personality. You want to set up the business in a way that's going to be fun for you. And just know that you can do all the business you want to do with just seller prospecting and sphere marketing like we're talking about, where you don't have to do anything else. You can be $1 million a year earner doing just what we're talking about. My biggest mistake my first year, going back to when I only sold 6 houses, was I was trying to do too much. I was doing open houses. I was generating buyer leads. I was calling FSBOs, expireds. I was going to networking events. I was generating leads on Craigslist when that was a thing back then. I'm sure it still works today, but it was really popular then. If you don't just become an expert at something and do it consistently over time, you'll never get good traction with it. And adding in something where part of your plan is to sponsor events like that is a whole nother marketing pillar. So just understand that we just have a limited amount of mental capacity to pull everything off and just focus on 1 or 2 things. And for me, the 1 and 2 thing is exactly what I'm talking about. I wouldn't add a third unless you're growing a team and you feel like the first 2 pillars are maxed out. Like 2 pillars will get you to $1 million a year.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you for that. AJ, let's pretend a brand new agent sitting down with you right here in this office, and they say, hey, AJ, I really want to work my sphere of influence. What is the number one thing? Because we've talked about a number of things and how to communicate and how many times and touches and postcards. But if there was one thing that they could focus on, like you said, become a master of one thing, what would that one thing be to a new agent who's trying to get their business off the ground, or somebody trying to take their business to the next level?
If they're trying to work their database with it, or just
related to their sphere of influence. Yeah.
So the first thing, if you're new, is just letting them know that you're in business, and rely on those relationships. So I always say start with a blank sheet of paper or a spreadsheet. Sometimes it's better just to handwrite names down and transfer them over later. That way you're just thinking like crazy. Like write down every single name that comes to mind. Once you're done doing that, pull up your phone, write down every contact that you have. Go on Facebook, go through your friends, start writing those names down. Once you have an entire brain dump of every person that you know, like every person, go back through the list. And if there's any person that you would not want to do business with, or that you don't have, or that you just wouldn't call to tell them you're in real estate, just cross them off the list. You don't have to call everybody. You don't have to market to everybody. That's the other thing. It's like people are like, oh, I could never call that person for business. Well, then don't. Just cross them off, and that's not part of your database. But don't fool yourself into thinking that you can't start because you can't call all of them. So once you narrow your list down of people who you're actually going to muster up the courage to reach out to, just call them. And I would just say, If it's a buddy of mine, I would just say, hey, I don't know if you saw, but I posted on Facebook last week announcing that I just got my real estate license. I'm super excited. I'm partnered with a great company and have great mentors. And I just want to let you know that my goal is to build my business primarily on referrals. And I would just really appreciate it if you could keep me in mind if you or anyone else might be thinking about buying or selling. Do you think you could do that for me? So it's very to the point. It's like, hey, it's important to me. I want to build it on referrals. I want to do a good job for people. They hear it in your tonality that you're sincere and that you're asking for a favor. And that's going to be the best way to get it launched. Once you do that, get the postcards in place. And then once they start seeing the postcards month after month, they start thinking, wow, AJ was new last week, but now I got 6 postcards over the last 6 months and they keep coming. He must be successful. He's spending money on marketing. So it's subconsciously they start thinking, wow, this person's successful. They're marketing. And then when you just put them right into your VIP program, I mean, it can start day one. It doesn't have to, I mean, if it's one person, put them through your VIP program. If it's one person and if it's October, you got Thanksgiving around the corner, you can invite that one person to come pick up a pie or you're gonna drop it off. You buy them from Costco, you give them 2 options, pumpkin and apple. I don't know if you ever had them. They're delicious from Costco. They're massive. The apple is a little bit tastier in my opinion, and it's a little bit more expensive. So you like when people order pumpkin, but they know that, so they'll mostly order apple because they know it's more expensive. But if it's one person, say, hey, I'm doing this Thanksgiving Day pie giveaway. Would you like pumpkin or apple? I'll deliver it 2 days before Thanksgiving. So just put them through the whole system. And to help you in your mind kind of just like clarify all this, because it could still sound like a lot, just get a spreadsheet, even draw it out on a sketch pad. It doesn't matter. But put your text messages, put your postcards, put your phone calls, put your emails, list them, and then put your months across the top and just draw an X for what month you're going to do the party, what month you're going to make the call, what month you're going to do the text. And then when you get to that month, you see your X's. Okay, I got a text, I got a call, and I got my pies this month. So you know what activities you're doing that month. So you can see it you can stick it on your wall. You see your plan right there in front of you, and then it's easier to execute.
I love it. Thank you, AJ. This has been fantastic. There's probably 10 things I think that people could take away from this conversation that we've had in 45 minutes and go apply things into their business to start improving right away. So thank you so much. We got your sellerprospecting.com website into the notes there. So hopefully people are going there if they want to find out more. I know you mentioned that there's some free resources there. You've also got a YouTube channel. If people want to hear more about you, what's that YouTube channel they can go to?
Yeah, so just my name, AJ Mida, M-I-D-A. And if you guys got questions or anything, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook too, same handle. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. Hang tight. We'll go over some things after the show. But thank you, everybody, for being with us again. We'll be back on Friday. Please join us then. Again, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube or watching these right on our website, make sure that you're commenting in the questions throughout the shows that we have. We had some great questions in today. If you're new to the podcast as a listener and you are not subscribed and getting our email updates, make sure to go to our website, theredx.com, and you'll get a pop-up within just a couple of seconds that asks you to subscribe so that you can get the updates on our podcast. We have a fantastic lineup over the next few months. They're going to be hard to top this one, though, AJ. It was fantastic information. So thank you so much. Guys and gals, thanks for being with us, and we'll see everybody again on Friday.